husband was the enemy because I had to change so much. And I also felt like spiritually that when we got married, all this stuff was coming out of me that was ugly. And instead of like, oh, maybe I'm ugly, instead I was like, you're making me ugly. It's you. Like, I was hearing stuff differently. Like, when he would say certain things, it would take me back to my childhood, which is why I had to touch on it a little bit. I was used to like explosive moods, right? Because you had a parent who, both parents are like this actually, but it's either a 10 or like, depression, right? So it was explosive reaction. So when my husband would just say, hey, I don't like that you did something, I would hear, I hate you, like, you're the worst person ever. I would just hear this explosiveness. And I was just like, I could not hear things new, like, at this level. I didn't heal. I didn't heal. And so I thought he was my enemy. And now I'm yelling at him. I'm deeply insecure. I'm also have an ego. So I'm like, you know what? I think that I should be in a marriage where someone just accepts me for all that I am. I don't have to change, and I feel good about myself, and you love me 24/7. You're just giving me nothing but love and happiness. And I'm not feeling that way. I feel like, I feel like I have to change too much. I have to be better. And maybe this is, I told him, and this is what a narcissist says, is like, this is who I am and I'm not going to change. If you don't accept me, then I'm not for you. And so I got to a place where I was like, you're my enemy and you just need to get out. And he left. Like, I packed up all his stuff. I was like, leave. So I could feel like I could be myself. I want to go back to my old ways. I want to be me again. And so he left.
How did that go?
He fought so hard, and he was like, I'm fighting someone who doesn't want this marriage. So he just left.
This right here is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kind of playback of her experience in hindsight. The breakdown was amazing and really easy to understand. But here's the thing. There's a couple of things that she stated that I would like to expand on. That I would like to elaborate on. So I'm just going to tell you now, this video may be a little long, but I promise you it's informative. So get your notebook and something to write with, because I guarantee you there's some gems that might be helpful to you between now and the end of this video. But number one that I want to say is, there's a moment when she says being a narcissist is me saying, I'm going to be me and I'm not going to change that. That does not make you a narcissist. Oftentimes we use the term narcissist to label unwanted and perceived toxic behavior, but trust me, being a narcissist is a lot more in depth than something as baseline as a person trying to hold to their identity. That does not make you a narcissist. So I want to correct that, because I don't want people getting too comfortable with listening to people giving false definitions to the word narcissist. It shouldn't have been applied, and it doesn't make you a narcissist if you have an identity that you would like to keep and you say that to a person that you feel is trying to alter your identity in a sense. But outside of that, I like the fact that she says she thought that he was her enemy, because oftentimes that does occur, and it is a thought in your mind when you feel that everything that you are is coming into question via someone outside of yourself. But I bet you there's something that you didn't know. Did you know this phenomenon happens to men too? Crazy, right? Because we often talk about how this happens to a woman who gets with a real man and she's perhaps transitioning from her masculine self into her feminine self, because he's so logical that he's going to call things into question and hold her accountable and so on and so forth. And that resistance is what she's talking about in this experience here. But what they don't tell you is the same phenomena happens to men, because a woman's existence can hold someone accountable as well. And men have childhood trauma as well. Whether or not you are an effective leader, or you're a man's man, or you're a male, it doesn't matter. If you have unhealed trauma and you come into a relationship with someone else, I will say, if they are your true companion, Now, a lot of people have a little bit of a argument or a rebuttal for this, but there's a reason why I say if they're your true companion, because coexisting can be relatively easy. And a lot of times when you hear coexistence, lack of friction tends to create a goals type mentality for a lot of people. But what people don't realize is iron sharpens iron. And in order for iron to sharpen iron, you need friction. So consider a little bit of resistance, a little bit of rustle and bustle, a little bit of argument to be that friction. When you don't have that friction, there is no growth amongst you. You guys have forged an alliance where you are consistent and comfortable with doing the same thing over and over. And in a real relationship, in a relationship where there is a lot of evolution, a lot of growth, and a lot of change, there will be friction. It's just automatic because you come from two different places with two different logics, two different pathologies, two different points of view, experience, dialogue, communication skills. And because they're two different, they tend to come together in a little bit of a rough way. So you have to learn to navigate that. And in learning to navigate that, you improve your communication skills. You improve how to be vulnerable and how to be emotional in a healthy way. You improve all of the areas that help you best craft and mold your character to be applicable with another person. So oftentimes you hear statements like this.
Marriage literally is the one relationship that will bring out the darkest side that you didn't even know exists. Your spouse will bring that out more than anybody, your parents, your friends. You guys will see parts of you that you didn't know existed. Marriage is from a spiritual construct. It is to help build your character, and marriage will help build your character like no other relationship. If you can get through that, you're going to see a side of you that will blow your mind.
And when you hear statements like this, it proves to you that when you come together with another person, that will create a bubble of healing space, and it will unearth a lot of unhealed trauma. Oftentimes you hear people say you should come to the relationship healed. And I tend to pose the argument that there's some things that you cannot heal until you're in a romantic relationship, and this is why. You ever hear the statement that someone says you marry your father or you marry your mother? That's the reason why you can't get to all of your trauma, is because when you're single, you're just working on yourself as an individual. But when you get into a romantic relationship with another person, now you're trying to forge an alliance with someone of your opposite gender. And the first representation of that harmonic space between you and someone of the opposite gender is her with her father and him with his mother, or the caregiver, depending on if you had your mother or you had your father. But that is how you learn to get along with the opposite gender. A girl learns how to get along with the opposite gender from her father and how he's supposed to be with her. A man learns the same in connection with his mother. So if that relationship has a lot of friction or created a lot of trauma, naturally those things will go unhealed until you get with your true partner. And I say your true partner, I mean the person who emulates your opposite gender parent in the same way as your childhood. Because then you get to revisit, you have to learn to recreate those experiences that once traumatized you and heal them through loving in your relationship. And if you are with a partner that you ended up with or just chose, or whatever the situation may be, but that person does not have an alignment with your opposite gender parent, you will never even see those triggers. You will never even get a chance to heal those triggers. You will never get a chance to unearth those triggers or even know they exist. You will have no friction, and therefore no character building, no evolving, no growing, just consistency and contentment. And life in itself is about growth. It's about growth and evolution. It's not about finding a pocket or a place or a nook or a cranny where you can get comfortable and never expose yourself to things that make you uncomfortable, therefore pushing you to evolve. When you get with your true partner, they unearth things in you that you have not felt since you were in your childhood. And when you haven't dealt with those things since you were in your childhood, you did not heal those things, you didn't address those things. It's a far and distant memory. And as a result of that, them coming up inside of you while you're in this relationship, you loathe those feelings and you loathe those emotions. And oftentimes you stated things in your childhood like, I will never go through this again. That will never happen to me again. If I'm ever in this position again, I will do X, Y, and Z. And you will live that out in that relationship, not realizing that this is your second chance to demonstrate that your first interaction with the opposite gender forged a trauma. And then you have all these experiences in between, and then you meet, quote unquote, the love of your life or the person that has been directly sent to you so you can repair this part of yourself. And at that point, it is time to demonstrate that from the time that that trauma was created to the time you're challenged with those same things again, you have learned something. You have learned something and you have grown and you have earned the right to completely close the circle of healing, and you have earned your happiness. Oftentimes, a lot of us fail here because soon as you get triggered and these things get unearthed, instead of looking inside yourself and going inward and building self-awareness and making those connections that I'm not really mad at you. You sound like my father. You sound like my mother. You sound like the person who created trauma for me. And healing that wound, we say, you are the problem. Something's wrong with you. You're toxic and I need to cut you loose. And then you go into another relationship and the same thing repeats itself. Things start to unearth and you run. Things start to unearth and then you run. When the truth of the matter is this.
The most triggering relationship for a lot of people is their relationship with their partner or spouse. Well, that's the person that you care about the most, which means they're also the one who can hurt you the most. So the irony is that the closer you get to true love, the more vulnerable you are, which means your ego is going to create diversions and smokescreens to self-sabotage the relationship. So as backwards as it sounds, true love is one of the most triggering things because it shines a light on your ego's greatest fear, which is the fear of not being enough.
And because you don't realize it and you project, you accuse, you badmouth, you curse, you come out of yourself and allow all this toxicity to build up within you, and the entire time you're revealing yourself to you. You need to fix this. You need to heal this. This is an area that hurts. This is an area that's confused. This is an area that you need to meditate over. You're looking at the other person with hateful eyes, resentful eyes, vindictive eyes, and not realizing that they're merely a conduit for you to see yourself and you to unearth the things that you couldn't reach single, because this is not a single wound. It's a wound of bonding. It's a wound that comes by way of forging an alliance with the opposite gender. So you couldn't have reached it alone. You couldn't have even seen it alone. And also, one would ask, well, I've been in other relationships. Why didn't this happen in other relationships? That's exactly why I say true partner again, because this person moves in a very familiar way that's like-minded to your experience as a child. And so they have two capacities within their self, they typically have all the things to trigger you, but all the things to help you heal it as well. And you have to be able to see that they contain both, because they themselves also need to heal. And also, that person is someone you love deeply. What we don't realize is we get into countless relationships for countless reasons, and your level of investment matters. Things that happen in happenstance, things that happen just because you're bored, things that happen because you're just using them as a placeholder. They couldn't possibly trigger and unearth the same emotions within you because you're not as invested. But there's a type of person that you can allow in your space and fall for them and love them, that they will unearth everything that you've been trying to hide all the way up until now. You see, no matter how healed we try to portray ourselves, there's still a pot of unearthed trauma that you'll never allow to come to the surface, because those are the things that you don't want to deal with. Those are, in a sense, some of your biggest traumas and the hardest hurdles to get over. And they may even be in the pot of, if you truly knew what I've been through, you might question if I'm the person to invest in. And you might be afraid of it decreasing your value, or creating an environment that says that you're not enough. And if you feel that way, and you don't feel safe, or your partner has not provided a safe space, you'll never discuss it. You'll never bring it up. In fact, you'll live like it never exists. But the irony about this particular personality type that you choose one day, they will embody a lot of the essence of your same gender parent. They will trigger you in the same ways. You will find overlap in phrases and experiences, and it will take you back to your childhood. And they will also be there to give you some of your best experiences. So they are equipped with your destruction as well as your creation. And you have to, in a sense, fight and work your way through all the layers and the chaos and the happiness and the fear and the craving and everything that's wrapped up within. They are your best experiences and your worst experiences wrapped up in one person. And it's essentially, I look at it as a test. It's a test because on the good side of them creating some of your best and most memorable experiences, you bond with them closer. You open up and become more vulnerable. You tap into emotions that you didn't even know you could, because of the safety that comes by way of the beautiful side of them. But then the other side that triggers you so and makes you worry, makes you fear, makes you question, makes you doubt, will challenge you to run, challenge you to attack, challenge you to be defensive, challenge you to hide, challenge you to go into flight mode. And you have to choose which side of yourself, and you won't realize it, but those sides of the coin, that yin and yang, matches you as well. Because your peace side will yearn for their peace side, and their chaos will magnify your chaos that you have within. Because don't let me confuse you. We are all yin and yang. We are all duality, the highs and lows and the push and pull. So you will never, ever, ever be in an experience where the other person is so toxic and you're just purely no ounce of toxicity at all. Balance is the push and pull, the negative and the positive. No one is 100% positive and no one is 100% negative. So if they have a negative part of themselves, it will naturally gravitate to the negativity in you, as well as the positivity in them and the positivity in you. And we have a tendency to have these experiences with other people and completely ignore the toxicity within ourselves that is matching that energy. And as she stated, it was a beautiful, again, just a sense of clarity that she had. But she said that instead of saying I'm ugly, I said you made me ugly. And that's the distance. When you have a tendency to create distance between yourself and a phenomena, it's displaying denial, essentially. When something ugly can come up out of you and you don't say, I didn't know I was capable of that. Instead, you say, you made me. If it wasn't for your behavior, I would never. That is you distancing yourself from the person that you have seen yourself be. When you say, I would never have been this person with another person, that shows a lack of accountability, because it's not about whether or not you're with a different type of person. It's about your standards and your stance within your integrity within yourself. Because if this was your stance and you had all the way established who you were, you could be put with any type of person and you will hang on to your stance. But this comes up because it's there. Nothing can come up that is not present. And as much as it may scare you and intimidate you and give you pause and make you feel like all your hard work and your healing has been null and void because you can still be this toxic, the truth is there was an entire world of yourself that you did not have access to because you were not in the right type of romantic relationship for you to show yourself who you can become. And you need support. You need somebody that's willing to identify with this situation and help you walk through it so it's built in your romantic relationships. And this can be your best experience and your worst experience. So I will say this. If you have found this experience and you're trying to decide whether you should run and preserve yourself, as she said, get out and leave. I want to continue to be myself. Understand when you do that, you are opting to never change. And you're ignoring the fact that the reason why your feathers are so ruffled, the reason why these things get up under your skin is because it's an area of brokenness, an area of trauma, and an area of lack of healing. And if you are really ready to heal yourself and change the trajectory of your life, you will welcome it with open arms and accept the challenge and do the work. Because as stated in my second clip, if you're able to get through that and get through it with your person and walk through the fire together, the type of relationship that you can have will be unmatched. And it will take you further than into forever. I guarantee it'll take you into the next lifetime. Peace.